Years had passed since Ethan last saw Alira, the alien queen. He still remembered the day she left. After the long and dangerous mission where he had helped her save her planet, Alira had looked at him with sad eyes and told him she must return. To her world, she had promised she would never forget him. Ethan had tried to believe her, but as time went by, he wondered if she ever really would come back. On Earth, Ethan lived a quiet life. He worked as an engineer in a small city. His friends saw him as clever and kind, but they did not know about the adventures he had experienced among the stars. He missed the feeling of being part of something important. He missed Alira most of all. Sometimes at night, he would look up at the sky and think about her. He would wonder if she was safe, if she remembered him, and if her people were still free. One evening, Ethan was walking home from work. It was late, and the street was empty. The air was cool, and the stars were bright. Suddenly, a strange feeling passed over him. He stopped and looked around. He saw nothing unusual, but his heart beat faster. There was a light in the sky, brighter than anything he had ever seen. It was not a star, and it was moving closer. Ethan stared, frozen in place. The light grew bigger and brighter, and soon he realized it was not just a light. It was a ship, silent and smooth, coming down through the clouds. The ship landed in a field just outside the city. Ethan felt drawn to it. He did not run or hide. Instead, he walked toward the ship as if in a dream. The air around the ship shimmered. The door opened with a soft hiss. Out stepped Alira, just as he remembered her. Her skin had a soft glow, her hair was long and silver, and her eyes were deep and kind. She wore the robes of her royal family. Behind her were several guards, tall and silent. They watched everything, but it was clear that Alira was in charge. Ethan could not believe his eyes. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. He stood still, not knowing what to say. Alira walked up to him and smiled. She spoke in a gentle voice, and her words were simple, but they meant the world to Ethan. She said, "I missed you deeply, human. It's time to return." Ethan felt a rush of emotions. He remembered the time they had spent together, how they had fought side by side, how they had saved her people. He remembered how hard it was to say goodbye. Now she was here, reaching out to him. He wanted to ask her so many questions, but for a moment he just looked at her, trying to understand if this was real. Lir seemed to sense his confusion. She reached out and touched his hand. Her touch was warm and gentle. "I never forgot you," she said. "I wanted to come back sooner, but I could not. There were many troubles in my world. Now I need your help again." Ethan nodded slowly. His mind was racing. He looked around and saw the guards watching carefully. The ship was still glowing softly, like something from a dream. He wondered what would happen next. He asked, "Why me? Why now?" Alira answered honestly, "My world has changed. My people do not trust outsiders, but they trust you. You have already helped us once. There are those who want to take my throne. They say I am weak because I left to find help from a human. But I know the truth. You are not just a human. You are my friend, and I need you at my side." News of the ship's landing spread quickly. People in the city began to notice the strange lights. Some took photos, and soon the whole world was talking about the alien ship. Government agents rushed to the scene, but the alien guards blocked their way. They would not let anyone near Alira or Ethan. As the crowd grew, Alira turned to Ethan and said, "I cannot stay long. If you come with me, there is no turning back. You must decide now." Ethan felt the weight of the moment. He thought about his life on Earth. It was safe and simple, but he had always felt like something was missing. He thought about the adventure, the friendship, and the feeling of making a difference. He looked at Alira, and in her eyes he saw hope and trust. He realized that he still cared for her, and he wanted to help her again. Before he could answer, a group of agents tried to get closer. They called out to Ethan, asking him to step away from the aliens. Alira's guards tensed, but Alira held up her hand to stop them. She spoke to the agents in perfect English. "We come in peace. I am here for Ethan. He must choose for himself." The agents tried to convince Ethan to stay. They told him he was needed on Earth, that it was dangerous to trust aliens. But Ethan remembered what he had seen on Alira's world. He knew she was honest. He knew he could trust her. Ethan turned to Alira and asked, "If I go with you, will I ever come back?" Alira smiled softly. "I cannot promise. There is much we must do. But you will not be alone. You will have me and my people." Ethan felt a deep pull in his heart. He looked at the sky, then at Alira. "I want to help you," he said. "I want to see your world again." Alira smiled with relief. "Then come with me." Together they walked toward the ship. The guards stood aside. Ethan felt nervous, but also excited. He looked back at the crowd one last time. People stared at him in wonder. Some waved, some took pictures, some called out his name, but Ethan did not stop. He was ready for a new adventure. As they reached the ship, Alira took his hand. "Think. You, Ethan, you do not know how much this means to me." The ship's door closed behind them. Inside, everything was bright and strange. There were soft lights and smooth walls. The air smelled different, almost sweet. Alira led him to a small room. She told him to sit and rest. "We will leave soon. The journey will not be easy, but I am glad you are here." Ethan sat down and tried to calm his thoughts. He watched as Alira spoke with her guards. She seemed stronger than before, but also tired. He wondered what had happened to her in the years they were apart. He wondered what dangers waited for them on her world. Outside, people watched as the ship began to rise. It lifted slowly into the sky, growing smaller and smaller until it was gone. On Earth, everyone was left with questions. Who was the alien queen? Why did she come for Ethan? Would he ever return? Inside the ship, Ethan looked out the window and saw the Earth fading away. Alira sat beside him. "Are you afraid?" she asked. "A little," Ethan admitted. "But I trust you," Alira smiled. "That is all I can ask. Together we can face anything." The ship raced through the stars, leaving Earth behind. Ethan did not know what the future would bring, but he knew he had made the right choice. He was ready for whatever waited for him with Alira and her people. As the ship sped away from Earth, Ethan looked through the window. The blue and green planet grew smaller every minute. It felt strange to leave behind everything he had ever known, but Alira's presence made him feel safe. She sat beside him, quiet for a while, then she gently put her hand on his arm. Her touch was warm, and she smiled softly at him. Ethan did not know what to say, so he just smiled back. The ship's halls were wide and full of soft lights. The alien guards led Ethan and Alira to another room where they could rest and talk. The room was different from anything Ethan had ever seen on Earth. The walls had moving patterns, and the chairs changed shape to fit whoever sat down. Alira asked if he was comfortable, and Ethan nodded. Still amazed by everything around him, Lir explained that she had to leave her world soon after their last adventure. She said that her people needed her, but not everyone believed in her ways. While she was gone, her enemies started to gain power. They wanted to take the throne and turn her world back to old traditions, which were not always kind to outsiders or new ideas. Alira's choice to trust a human before had made some people angry. She looked at Ethan and said, "I need your help again. Your actions last time showed my people that hope can come from anywhere." Ethan listened closely. He knew it was not going to be easy, but he wanted to help her. He remembered how hard it was for Alira to stand alone. She was strong, but she had many challenges. He said, "I will do whatever I can to help you. I owe you that much." Alira smiled with relief. She looked tired, but now there was hope in her eyes. "Thank you, Ethan. I could not ask for a better friend." They talked for a long time about the problems facing her world. Alira told him about the different groups fighting for power. Some wanted to rule with fear. Others believed only someone with pure alien blood should sit on the throne. Alira had tried to bring peace and new ideas, but not everyone wanted change. She said that her enemies had grown stronger while she was away, and now they questioned if she was fit to lead. As they talked, the ship's captain entered the room. She was tall, with dark purple skin and gold eyes. Her name was Lara. She spoke in clear English and told them that they were about to leave the solar system. She asked Ethan if he needed anything, and when he said no, she smiled. "You are brave to come with us," Lyra said. "Not many would leave their world behind." Ethan thanked her, and then Lyra left to give them privacy. Lyra explained that Lyra was one of her closest friends and one of the few who believed in friendship between humans and her people. Ethan felt glad that Lyra had loyal friends. As the journey continued, Ethan noticed that the ship was full of strange and wonderful things. Lights changed color when he passed by. The food looked odd but tasted good. He was surprised by how kind most of the crew were. Some were curious about him and asked him questions about Earth. Others kept their distance and watched him with careful eyes. One afternoon, Lyra brought Ethan to meet her sisters. There were 3 of them, Maya, Sira, and Lena. Maya was the oldest and very serious. She had pale blue skin and sharp eyes. Sira was friendly and full of energy, always smiling and asking questions. Lena was quiet but kind, and she watched Ethan with interest. At first, the sisters were not sure about Ethan, but they listened to his story with curiosity. Maya asked, "Do you really care about Lyra, or are you just following her because you want an adventure?" Ethan answered honestly, "I care about Lyra. I know what she stands for. She wants peace for her people. I want to help her." Sira smiled, happy. With his answer, Lena nodded in agreement. Maya still looked unsure but said nothing more. Lyra was glad her sisters met Ethan, and she hoped they would become friends. As the days passed, Ethan tried to learn as much as he could about Lyra's world. He asked questions about their customs, their history, and their hopes for the future. He learned that many of Lyra's people were afraid of outsiders because of wars in the past. Some believed humans brought danger, while others thought humans could bring new ideas and hope. One evening, as the ship crossed into new space, an alarm sounded. Red lights flashed, and the crew rushed to their stations. Lyra told Ethan to stay close. Lyra, the captain, called out, "There is trouble in the engine room. Someone is trying to sabotage the ship." Ethan did not hesitate. He followed Lyra and Lyra to the engine room. Inside, they found 2 crew members working quickly to stop a fire. Someone had placed strange devices in the ship's systems, too. "Cause damage?" Ethan looked at the machines and realized what they were. They were similar to devices he had seen back on Earth meant to disrupt power. Lyra asked, "Can you help us, Ethan?" Ethan nodded. He used his knowledge as an engineer to remove the devices. He worked quickly, giving orders to the crew. Soon, the fire was out, and the engine room was safe. Lyra and Lyra both thanked him. Lyra said, "If not for you, the ship would be lost." Lyra looked at him with pride. "See, I told you humans are clever." Ethan was glad he could help, but he was worried. "Someone on the ship does not want us to reach your world," he said. Lyra agreed. She promised to find out who was behind the sabotage. She asked Lyra to investigate, and Lyra ordered more security checks. The crew was shaken, but they trusted Lyra and Ethan. That night, as they sat alone, Lyra thanked Ethan again. "Your quick thinking saved us. I know things are not easy, but having you here makes a difference." Ethan smiled, feeling closer to Lyra than ever. "I'm just glad I could help. I hope your people will accept me." Lyra squeezed his hand. "They will, in time. My sisters are starting to trust you, and so am I." The next morning, the ship drew near to Lyra's planet. Ethan watched from the window as a world of purple clouds and tall silver cities appeared. In the distance, it was beautiful but also full of danger. He knew that their real journey was just beginning. As the alien ship neared Lyra's homeworld, Ethan could not look away from the window. The planet below glowed with strange colors, with tall silver cities shining between stretches of purple forests and blue lakes. Everything seemed both beautiful and unfamiliar. The sky was full of ships, and Ethan could see floating stations moving in slow circles above the ground. He felt nervous and excited at the same time, knowing that this world was now part of his new life. The ship began to slow down. Lyra sat beside Ethan, watching his face. She could see he was worried, so she spoke softly. "You are not alone, Ethan. I am with you. My sisters are with you too." Ethan nodded and tried to smile. The last days on the ship had changed him. He had helped save everyone from the fire in the engine room. Illyra's sisters, especially Sierra, had started to talk to him more. Maya still watched him carefully, but sometimes Ethan caught her looking at him with less suspicion. Lena, the quietest sister, liked to ask him about Earth and seemed to enjoy his stories. Now, as they prepared to land, Ethan wondered if Illyra's people would accept him. As the ship landed on a wide platform, a crowd waited below. Illyra explained that news of her return had spread. Many people wanted to see her, and many wanted to see the human who had traveled across the stars with their queen. When the doors opened, a wave of cool air and strange scents washed in. Ethan followed Illyra and her sisters down the ramp. The crowd was full of bright colors, with people wearing long, flowing robes. Some cheered, others looked serious. A group of important leaders stood at the front, waiting for Lyra. Lyra walked forward with her head high. Ethan stayed close. She introduced him as her friend and a hero to her people. Some leaders nodded politely, but others whispered to each other and looked at Ethan with cold eyes. One leader, an old man with gray skin and bright yellow eyes, stepped forward. He said, "Why bring a human here again, Queen Illyra? Our world is in danger, and outsiders bring trouble." Illyra answered with calm strength, "Ethan helped save our world once. He risked his life for us. He is not just an outsider, he is my friend." Some people clapped, but others did not look pleased. Ethan felt out of place, but he remembered Illyra's words. He stood tall, hoping he could earn their trust. After the welcome, Illyra led Ethan through the city. He was amazed by everything he saw. Buildings touched the sky, made from glass and metal that seemed to move with the wind. The streets were clean, and strange animals floated in pools of light. Everywhere they went, people stared. Some children waved at Ethan, smiling and shouting, "Human! Human!" Others kept their distance. That night, Illyra took Ethan to her family's home. It was a palace made of white stone and glowing blue glass. Inside, servants greeted them and offered food that tasted sweet and spicy. Illyra's sisters took Ethan to see the gardens, where trees had purple leaves and flowers glowed in the dark. For a moment, Ethan forgot his worries and enjoyed the beauty around him. But soon, trouble returned. At dinner, Illyra's advisors arrived to talk about the problems facing the kingdom. They spoke in low voices, worried about rumors of rebellion and angry leaders who wanted Illyra gone. Maya listened carefully and asked hard questions. Sierra tried to make peace, telling jokes and making everyone laugh. Lena watched quietly, thinking about what was not being said. Lyra turned to Ethan and asked him to share his ideas. "You see things differently," she said. "What would you do to bring peace?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Maybe you can show the people that humans and your people can work together. We can help each other. Maybe there is a way to prove that trust is better than fear." Some advisors liked his answer, but others shook their heads. "Outsiders do not understand our ways," one said. "They should not lead us." Illyra stood up and said, "No one is asking Ethan to lead, but he has ideas that can help. I will not turn away from hope." The meeting ended late at night. Ethan felt tired but hopeful. Illyra thanked him for speaking honestly. As they walked in the garden, she said, "You are brave to come here. I know it is not easy. My world is not always kind." Ethan smiled. "Your world is beautiful, but it is also strange. I want to help you, even if some people do not trust me yet." Illyra squeezed his hand and said, "Thank you. That means a lot to me." The next day, Ethan was tested in new ways. He was invited to watch a ceremony where young leaders showed their skills. Illyra explained that it was a tradition for new friends of the royal family to take part in some way. She asked Ethan to share a story from Earth. He stood before a crowd and told them about a time when he helped a friend fix a broken engine. During a storm, he spoke simply and honestly. To his surprise, many people listened with interest. Some even clapped when he finished. After the ceremony, Maya walked up to him. Your story was simple but true. Maybe you are not so different from US after all. Sarah laughed and gave Ethan a friendly push. I think you are winning hearts, one story at a time. Lena smiled quietly. Thank you for being honest. People here need to see that humans can care. As days passed, Ethan learned more about the kingdom's troubles. Rumors of sabotage spread through the palace. Strange messages were found, warning Illyra to give up her throne. Some guards began to act nervous, and there were whispers about secret meetings late at night. Illyra grew worried. She called her sisters and Ethan together to talk about what to do. I do not want to fight my own people, Illyra said. But if we do nothing, the kingdom could fall. Maya said, we must be strong. We cannot let fear rule us. Sira agreed. Let us try to talk to our enemies. Maybe there is a way to find peace. Lena was quiet, but then she spoke softly. Someone inside the palace is working against us. We must find out who it is. Ethan offered to help. Maybe I can look at the machines and security systems. I might find something others have missed, Illyra nodded. Do what you can. We need every friend we have. That night, Ethan explored the palace's control rooms. He studied the computers and security feeds. After hours of work, he found something odd, a message hidden in the system. It was a warning from someone calling themselves the Shadow, it said. Leave the throne or face the darkness. Ethan took the message to Illyra and her sisters. Maya frowned. This is a threat. Sira looked worried. What if it is real? Illyra said. We cannot let fear win. We must find out who is behind this. Ethan offered to help set traps to catch the traitor. Illyra agreed, and together they made a plan. They placed special codes in the computers and watched to see who would try to break them. After 2 days, they caught a guard trying to use the code. The guard admitted he had been paid by a group who wanted to remove Illyra and bring back the old ways. With proof in hand, Illyra spoke to her people. She told them what had happened and promised to protect them from those who would harm the kingdom. She thanked Ethan for his help and told the world that he was her trusted friend. Some people began to see him in a new light. As the days went by, more people came to trust Ethan. Illyra's sisters grew closer to him. He still missed Earth sometimes, but he felt at home with Illyra and her family. He knew their fight was not over, but he was ready to stand with them, no matter what came next. After the guard's confession, the palace felt different. Trust was hard to find, and everyone looked over their shoulder. Illyra called meetings each day to talk with her sisters, advisors, and now with Ethan. The group tried to plan for every problem. Even the servants and guards were given new duties, hoping to stop any new trouble before it could start. The old ways of fear were fighting with Illyra's hope for a better world. Ethan spent his days working with Illyra and her family. Sometimes he felt lost, but Illyra and her sisters helped him understand their customs. Maya taught him about the laws and rules. She said, you must know our history to help change our future. She showed him old books and stories about how the kingdom had been built and the wars they had fought with other worlds. Ethan listened closely. He realized that peace was not easy and that many people were afraid of change because they had lost so much before. Sarah, the playful sister, brought Ethan to meet with groups of young people in the city. They talked about their dreams for the future. Some wanted new technology and friendship with other worlds. Others were scared that outsiders would bring danger. Sarah would laugh and tell stories to make them feel less afraid. Ethan tried to answer their questions about Earth, and sometimes he made them laugh too. He could see how important it was to listen to their worries and show kindness. Lena was quiet, but she spent time with Ethan in the palace gardens. She liked to walk among the glowing trees and talk about simple things. One day she asked Ethan, "Do you miss your home?" Ethan thought for a moment and said, "I do, but I also feel like I belong here. You and your sisters have made me feel welcome, even when things are hard." Lena smiled, and for the first time she called him friend. As the days passed, tension in the palace grew. Rumors of attacks spread, and the guards checked every door and window. Sometimes Illyra would sit with Ethan late at night and talk about her fears. She worried she was not strong enough to keep her people safe. Ethan always listened and tried to remind her of her strength. He said, "You are brave, Illyra. You care about your people more than anything. That is what makes you strong." Illyra would smile and thank him, but Ethan could see the worry in her eyes. One afternoon, Illyra asked Ethan to stand with her at a public meeting. Many people from the city came to hear her speak. She told them the truth about the traitor and the plans to attack the kingdom. She spoke about her hope for peace and her trust in Ethan. Some people cheered, but others shouted that humans should not be trusted. Illyra stood tall and said, "I do not ask you to trust all humans, only to see what is possible when we work together." Ethan stood beside her, feeling the weight of every eye in the crowd. It was not easy, but he did not look away. After the meeting, Illyra's advisors warned her that she was taking too many risks. They said the people would not accept change so quickly. Illyra listened but did not change her mind. "I have seen what fear does," she said. "I will not let it rule us anymore." The next day, a council of elders called for a special test. They said that if Ethan wanted to stay in the kingdom and help Illyra, he must prove his worth. The test was an old tradition meant to show wisdom, courage, and kindness. Illyra was upset but knew she could not refuse the elders. Maya helped Ethan prepare for the test. She told him about the different parts, answering questions about history, solving problems, and showing kindness to strangers. Sira and Lena offered to help too, teaching him how to greet people and how to speak in the old language. Ethan studied hard. He wanted to show Illyra's people that he respected their ways. The day of the test came. People filled the city square to watch. The elders sat on high chairs and asked Ethan many questions. Some were easy, but others were hard. They asked him about wars on Earth and how people solved problems without fighting. Ethan answered honestly, talking about peace, mistakes, and second chances. Then they gave him a problem to solve, a machine that was broken. He worked carefully and fixed it, showing patience and skill. Last, they sent him into the crowd to help anyone in need. Ethan helped a child find her mother, comforted an old man, and shared stories with the young ones. At the end of the test, the elders met to talk about what they had seen. The crowd waited in silence. Finally, the oldest elder stood up and said, "You have shown courage, wisdom, and kindness. You are welcome here." The crowd cheered, and Illyra ran to hug Ethan. Her sisters hugged him too. Maya said, "You did well. Now they will listen to you." Sira laughed. "I knew you could do it." Lena smiled and said, "You belong here now." That night there was a great celebration in the city. People danced in the streets and lights glowed in every window. For the first time, Ethan felt truly accepted. He and Illyra walked through the city, talking with everyone. They heard stories of hope and dreams for the future. People thanked Ethan for helping their queen and for showing that friendship was possible. Late that night, as the celebrations ended, Illyra and Ethan sat together on a balcony. They looked out over the city, full of lights and laughter. Illyra said, "You have changed my world, Ethan. I do not know what the future holds, but I am glad you are here." Ethan smiled and took her hand. "We will face whatever comes together." But even as they shared this peaceful moment, shadows moved in the corners of the city. Not everyone was happy with change. In the darkness, enemies of the queen gathered to make new plans. They would not give up so easily. Trouble was still coming. But for now, Illyra and Ethan enjoyed the peace they had worked so hard to find. Dawn broke over the Silver City as the first alarm sounded. Ethan and Illyra were awake when the guards rushed past their chambers. A loud voice called out, "Attack on the palace!" Illyra sprang from her bed and pulled on simple armor. Ethan followed, his heart pounding. He had learned to trust his instincts. He grabbed his tools and whatever he could use to help. Illyra's sisters joined them, ready for battle. Maya had her ceremonial blade. Sira carried a light energy lance, and Lena held a shield charged with protective energy. Together, they ran toward the main gate. Crowds moved in the streets, some fleeing in fear, others standing their ground. The enemy came in ships small enough to land in the plazas. They were armed with weapons that fired red bolts of energy. Guards met them with shields and blasters, but the attackers pushed forward. Elira shouted orders. "Hold the line! Protect the people!" Her voice was steady and strong. Ethan listened carefully. He saw that the enemy ships were targeting the power stations that kept the city lights and shields running. Without shields, the walls would fall. Diving into the action, Ethan and a small team raced to a nearby power station. Sparks flew as they fought off attackers. Elira's guards stood close, but Ethan used his engineering skills. He rewired the control panel and shut down the saboteur's beam. The shields flickered back on. He wiped sweat from his brow and heard Elira's voice. Over the coms. "Well done, Ethan. Shields are back up." Across the plaza, Elira fought with fierce grace. Her blade danced through the air, striking at attackers with precision. She moved like water, fluid and calm. Yet there was fire in her eyes. She protected a group of frightened children, guiding them to safety with gentle words after the shields were restored. Ethan joined Elira at the palace entrance. Together, they charged into the main battle. Guards on both sides paused when they saw the Queen and the human engineer fighting side by side. Their presence inspired hope. The palace. Soldiers regained their courage and pushed forward. As the battle raged, a massive explosion rocked the plaza. Debris flew and dust filled the air. When it cleared, Ethan saw laughter among the attackers. A tall figure stood there, one of the council leaders who had opposed Elira. He wore dark armor and held a red staff that pulsed with malicious energy. The traitor's voice boomed. "You are weak, Queen! Your faith in humans will be your downfall." He raised the staff, and a wave of energy knocked several guards to the ground. Ethan and Elira exchanged a glance. They knew this was the traitor behind the attack. He wanted to destroy them. Elira charged forward, her blade bright with power. Ethan sprinted at her side. He held his tool like a weapon, ready to strike. The traitor's staff sent another wave, and Elira blocked it with her blade, sending sparks flying. Ethan dodged behind a column and saw that the staff's energy came from a crystal at its tip. He aimed his tool and fired a precise shot. The crystal cracked, and the staff's glow dimmed. Hurt. The traitor stumbled. He roared in anger and lashed out with his staff, ignoring the laws of their world. Elira moved in, her blade slicing through the air. Ethan joined her, slashing with a beam from his tool. Together they forced the traitor back. Surrounded, the traitor dropped his staff. Elira pointed her blade at him and said, "Your reign of fear ends now." She lowered her weapon but kept her gaze fierce. The traitor fell to his knees and dropped. His dark armor. Soldiers bound him with energy cuffs. The crowd gathered, watching in silence. The Queen and her human friend stood strong. Lavra, one of the palace healers, tended to the wounded. The city began to cheer. The attackers fled or surrendered. The plaza filled with relieved cries. Ethan felt dizzy with relief. He looked at Elira. She saw first responders helping people, and guards securing the gates. She turned to him and said, "We did it, together." The next morning, in the throne room, Elira held court. The traitor's trial was quick and fair. He admitted his crimes, that he had paid mercenaries to break the shields and kill the Queen. He said he had feared change and wanted the old ways back. Elia spoke to her people. "We have faced fear," she said, "and we have won." She looked at Ethan and continued, "We have proven that friendship and trust are stronger than hate. Today we start a new era." The crowd erupted in cheers. After the trial, Elira and Ethan walked through the city. The damage from the battle was being repaired. Buildings were being rebuilt and power lines fixed. People thanked Ethan for saving the shields. Children ran to him, calling him hero. Ethan smiled and answered them kindly. Sarah hugged him and said, "You saved us all." Maya nodded in respect. Lena offered him water and said, "You deserve a rest after tonight." Elira paused by a statue of her ancestors. She touched the cold metal and said, "I have broken tradition, but I have not broken my world. Instead, I have saved it with your help." Ethan put his hand on the statue too. He felt the smooth metal under his fingers. That night, there was a quiet celebration in the palace gardens. Lights glowed in the trees and soft music played. Elira and Ethan walked together, speaking softly. Illyra said, I promise to rule with heart and mind, not fear. Will you stay by my side? Ethan looked at her, his heart full. I will. I belong here now, Illyra smiled, tears in her eyes. They held each other as the stars shone above. Far below, the city slept peacefully, ready for a new day where humans and aliens stood as one. Peace returned to the city, but Ethan and Illyra knew it was only a moment of calm. Rumors of new plots whispered through the palace halls. Still, they pressed on with hope. Illyra focused on rebuilding trust among her people. Ethan worked with engineers to repair the damage from the battle. Whenever he fixed a broken machine, he thought about how small actions can heal great wounds. EAS. Dawn light filtered through the palace windows as Illyra and Ethan met with city leaders. They spoke about trade agreements and new laws to protect outsiders and citizens alike. Some leaders remained wary, but many showed support. Illyra spoke with patience and compassion, listening to each concern. Ethan stood beside her, offering ideas on improving communication and sharing technology safely. One afternoon, Illyra invited Ethan to tour the rebuilding projects. They walked through the quarters where engineers and workers labored together. Humans and aliens side by side. Children played around newly built gardens. Porters carried supplies past bright markets. Ethan smiled at each friendly face, feeling a connection he had never known on Earth. SEREN. A young leader who had opposed Illyra approached them. Her pale purple skin shone in the sun. She looked at Ethan and then at Illyra. I admit I doubted. You both, she said, but seeing people work together, I see hope. Illyra thanked her, and Ethan felt proud. That evening, Illyra held a banquet in the great hall. Long tables held dishes from both worlds, spicy earth stew and sweet alien fruits. Music filled the air with old melodies and new songs. Ethan heard laughter and saw strangers become friends. He sat next to Illyra's mother, Queen Emerine, who looked at him kindly. She said, You have done more than we expected. Thank you for your courage. Ethan bowed slightly and replied, I only followed Illyra's guidance. Emerine smiled, her eyes glowing with pride. During the banquet, Illyra rose to speak. She said, Tonight we celebrate not only our survival, but our unity. This kingdom stands because we chose trust over fear. Together we will build a future of peace. Applause filled the hall. Ethan squeezed Illyra's hand, feeling their bond stronger than ever after the banquet. In a quiet corner of the gardens, Ethan and Illyra spoke in hushed tones. The moonlight shone on purple flowers. Illyra said, I never believed I could find such strength in another soul. Ethan smiled gently. You gave me a home, he said. I have found purpose here because of you. She touched his cheek and said, You are my partner in every way. They were not alone for long. Illyra's sisters joined them. Maya said, We have news. Reports of a fleet approaching our borders from the north. Sira added, They are armed and demand Illyra's surrender. Lena looked grave. They will not stop until they test our unity. Illyra nodded, her face set with resolve. Then we must show them our strength. The next day, Illyra called her guard and city leaders to the plaza. The sky above darkened with ships far off in the distance. The people gathered, fearful but determined. Illyra spoke to them from a raised platform. We face a new threat, she said, but we are not alone. Look to your neighbor, human or alien, stand together. She gestured to Ethan, who stood beside her in simple armor. He raised his hand in greeting, and the crowd cheered. As the fleet drew nearer, Illyra and Ethan rode out with a small escort. They met the enemy commander on a neutral field. The commander, cloaked in dark armor, spoke through a translator. Queen Illyra, you defy the ancient ways. Surrender now, or your city will burn. Illyra stepped forward. I will not surrender. We choose peace, but we will defend our home, the commander sneered. Foolish queen. Your delay ends now? He signaled, and his troops raised weapons. The battle began under a gray sky. Illyra led her guard with grace and power. Swords clashed with energy lances. Ethan fought too, using his earth tools as weapons and shields. He remembered training on the ship in earlier battles. He moved with purpose, protecting medics and helping shield children hiding in the trees. Amid the chaos, the commander challenged Illyra again. They dueled near the city gates. Their weapons met with sparks. Illyra fought with skill, but the commander's dark power was strong. Ethan ran forward, drew the broken pieces of the traitor's staff from his pack, and used a small device to absorb the dark energy. The device glowed bright and then pulsed, sending a wave of energy that knocked the commander off balance. Lyra seized the moment. She disarmed the commander and stood with her blade at his throat. The enemy troops paused, watching. Ethan turned the device off and threw it aside. He looked at Illyra and whispered, "It's over." Illyra nodded, and the commander surrendered. The sky cleared, and the enemy ships withdrew. The city erupted in cheers. People poured into the streets, hugging and crying. Illyra and Ethan were lifted onto shields of honor by grateful guards. Illyra spoke to the commander, now bound with energy cuffs. "Let this be a lesson. Fear will never triumph if we stand together." As peace returned again, Illyra and Ethan walked through the cheering crowd. Lena, Maya, and Syrah flanked them, smiling and proud. Ethan waved to the people, feeling more at home than ever. Illyra leaned close and whispered, "We have built something stronger than any army." Ethan nodded, tears in his eyes. That night, in the quiet of the palace, Illyra and Ethan stood on the highest balcony. They looked at the twin moons rising over the city. Illyra held Ethan close. "We have faced every challenge," she said. "And we have grown stronger." Ethan kissed her gently. "I will never leave you," he said. Elias smiled against his lips. "And I will never forget how you saved me and my world. Now we begin our life together." Aya's dawn broke again. The city stirred with hope and new beginnings. Ambassadors from Earth prepared to arrive, eager to learn from the kingdom's unity. Illyra and Ethan stood together, ready to guide their worlds into a bright future. Together they watched the sunrise over the Silver City, knowing their story was only just beginning.